The Battle of the Gods. Once in ancient Greece, all of the gods and goddesses disliked each other very much and were always at war. However, there were two goddesses who chose not to go to war. For years they tried to get the gods and goddesses to stop fighting, but it never worked. Finally, one day, Aphrodite, one of the goddesses, had an idea. "Venia, I've got the perfect idea," she exclaimed. "If we can unite each god and goddess together, it will eventually join Zeus and Hera." "We could try," Venia responded, and so they did. The next day, they went out and started to join all the gods and goddesses, starting with Hades. But nobody wanted to unite, so they went straight to Zeus and Hera. "Oh, please, mighty Zeus, what is this argument all about?" Venia pleaded. "Hera doubts my power," exclaimed Zeus. "No, I do not," snapped back Hera. So Hera and Zeus kept arguing until they just couldn't argue anymore. Just then, all the gods and goddesses came walking in, and they were tired of arguing too. "We have finished fighting," Apollo said, and so they were. They had finished fighting and had made a compromise. After that, all arguments had to be handled by the people involved in a calm manner. By Sinead Washington.
My story is called Cute and Ugly. One day, about thousands of years ago, Zeus was sick of ruling his kingdom because all the mortals had boring, plain faces. For weeks and weeks he tried to think of a solution. "My mind is as blank as those mortals' faces," yelled Zeus frustratedly. One day, Athena came by to tell Zeus of her brilliant plan. "You must create a god of cuteness, your majesty, and command him to bestow his gift of cuteness upon the mortals," suggested wise Athena. "Thank you for your wisdom, Athena. You may leave," replied Zeus. After Athena left, Zeus used his power to create Charmiticus, god of cuteness. He looked a bit like a round oval with arms and legs and angel wings. Meanwhile, in the underworld, Hades thought that if there was cuteness, there must be ugliness. Thus created Euryalus, god of ugliness. He looked a bit like a peanut with tentacles and one eye. Soon, a war broke out between the two gods, and eventually they destroyed each other during the battle. Thus, there is still Cuteness and Ugliness Today by Callum Ross.
Infinity. Once upon a time, the Greek gods decided to make a god for when Zeus dies. They named the god Infinity, but of course Infinity had to have a brother, so they made Zero. They gave Infinity the ability to fly. Now, Infinity was the god of, well, almost everything, and was a shapeshifter. Zero was jealous. They started to fight, but Infinity easily overthrew Zero. Once Infinity had overthrown Zero, he dared Zero that he couldn't go to the edge of the universe and back before Infinity could. 3 days later, they both arrived back at Earth at the same time. But when Zero arrived, Infinity had set a trap and sent Zero straight to the underworld. When Zero arrived, Hades was very annoyed, so Hades came out of the underworld and set a trap for Infinity. When Infinity came out of his temple, the trap activated and sent Infinity to the clouds. He tried to go back to Earth, but somehow, when he tried to fly back, the Earth seemed farther and farther away. And that is the end of the story of Infinity and Zero. And that is why clouds move across the sky, because it is Infinity trying to get back to Earth. About the author. He has one brother named Zero, and his name is in fact Infinity, and he is the god Infinity. Important note, Save Me, by Mitchell Freeman.
The battle. Crash! Bang! "What was that?" said Asyndia. The children scream. "Ah!" Crash! Bang! "Ah!" The children screamed more. Asyndia thought to herself, "Is that smoke I smell?" She took a gigantic breath in and breathed out.
Oh no, it is smoke. She loudly yelled to all the children, "Get out! Get out! The house is on fire!" she screamed, even louder than last time. All the children started screaming and running outside, just in time too, because the burning house just started to fall to the ground. When Cynthia ran outside, she saw the one person she thought she would never see ever again. It was Taryn. "Oh no," she screamed. "What are you doing here?" screamed Cynthia very loudly. "Shut it, you little twit," yelled Taryn back. Taryn started to laugh evilly. Cynthia shouted at Taryn, "Why are you throwing burning hot lava rocks and even hotter fire at our house?" "Because I can," she shouted. Taryn started to throw extremely hot fire in the direction of the children. Cynthia ran over to them so fast it felt like she was flying. "Stop it," she said extremely loud. "Okay, I'll make you a deal," said Taryn in a very light voice. She continued, "Battle me. If you win, I will die. But if I win, you will die. And I will get those awful children." "I can't fight you," exclaimed Cynthia. Taryn replied with a little giggle, "I know you can't, but you will." All the children started shouting with excitement, "Do it! Do it!" without knowing the consequence. "Fine!" yelled Cynthia. "I'll do it." Both goddesses started to yell and grunt and scream, but just then the yelling and grunting stopped because Taryn was dead. All the very excited and very happy children ran over to Cynthia, but stopped when Cynthia fell to the ground and mumbled her last words. "Keep safe." The consequence was death. By Brooke Pearson.
Hermes' bravery test. There once was a Titan semi-god named Hermes. He was sick and tired of being messenger for Zeus, so one airy night, Hermes snuck out and went to Zeus. He asked him, "Please, Zeus, may I be something other than your messenger?" "All right," yelled Zeus, "but to prove you're brave enough, you must complete 3 tasks." Zeus handed Hermes a scroll with all the tasks in it. He read it, and here's what it said. Firstly, Hermes has to slay it. Secondly, Hermes had to summon a Nemeter to kill his mother, Maia. And thirdly, he had to take one of the bones from the bone crusher. So in the morning, Hermes snuck out, and he went to the cave of it. Luckily, it was sleeping, but Hermes just realized that he didn't have any weapons. So he flew to his local blacksmith and asked for some sharp weapons. So he gave him a molten dagger, fighter's stick, and Athena's shield. "But you must return them to me," he yelled in a booming voice. Okay, said Hermes. So he flew off with his stuff. He flew to its cave, but it wasn't asleep. It was awake. It was a disgusting creature. It had snot oozing out of its nose, blood all over its hands and teeth, and it bathed in its own urine. Ew! But that wasn't going to stop Hermes from slaying him, and with a snap of a finger, he shoved the molten dagger up his chest. "Well, that was easy," he exclaimed to himself. "Now for task 2. So he flew back to the village and got his mother, Maia, to sit down in the town's center. He started chanting, and suddenly a Nemeter fell out of the sky, and squelch, it squished his mum. But he didn't care about it, because he thought he was as brave as Ares. So he flew out to the Bone Crusher's Valley, but in the end, he died. The moral of the story is, don't ever try to be someone you're not. By Jared Papp, Room 27.